Carrie, Scott, Sean, Corey, and sister Kimberly, countless cousins, me, his only child, and his two granddaughters, Winter and Cora. I wanted to give some context as to why I requested us to gather at this location. Corona Del Mar was a special place for my father. He believed that Corona Del Mar was the only place worth living, and dedicated his life trying to buy a home here. He would often take me here after picking up an antipasta salad from Gina's Pizza, and we would walk the jetty and sneak into houses that were under construction and imagine what life would be like with travertine floors, bathrooms in every bedroom, and ocean views. My father and mother, Diane Sample, were married here at the cliffs of Corona Del Mar. In this same month of April, 42 years ago. Some of you were there. I hear the after party was pretty epic. It was at my grandfather's house around the corner from here. My mom told me that my father was excited to get married and to start his own family. As most of you know, the marriage didn't last long, and I would spend most of my childhood with my mother, while seeing my father a few times a year. Although I don't have an endless catalog of memories, I would like to share a few moments of his life that will stay with me always. He loved adventure. Perhaps his biggest adventure was the summer after high school. He set out from Newport Beach on a bicycle with a bedroll and a jar of peanut butter to Canada. He wanted to capture the same image he saw in a bicycling magazine. As if it wasn't enough, he continued his journey to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin to meet up with extended family. By the time he arrived, he was short of time and the inclination to get back to California on the same bike. He needed to get back before his first semester of college began. He convinced my grandfather to fly him home. My father introduced me to the things he loved, and in return I would grow to love them too. Things like German engineering, high thread count sheets, roller skating, manual transmissions, but most of all music and bands. He loved all genres of music, from folk to disco. He would play music so loud in his house or in the car that windows would vibrate. He had a loud, booming voice that he would use to break out in song, usually New York, New York, in the style of Frank Sinatra. He collected obscure musical instruments that he had no clue how to play, such as accordions or mandolins. He would dance with me for hours, listening to the same songs over and over. Those songs would change with the times. Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Sade. My father was spontaneous and a narcoleptic. In the summer of 2004, my father called me 3 weeks before the start of the Olympic Summer Games. He told me if Matt and I could find and pay for opening ceremony tickets, he would pay for the rest of the trip to Greece. 3 weeks later, we found ourselves sitting in the newly minted arena in Athens watching the opening ceremonies of the 2004 Summer Olympics. He was so proud to be there, so proud to be an American there. We had a 4-passenger smart car with absolutely no knowledge of the language and some vague directions to the condo he managed to find at the last minute. Just as we were arriving in a small seaside town, my father falls asleep at the wheel and almost drifts off a cliff. Luckily, Matt was there to jerk the wheel to safety. We drove the rental car for the next 2 weeks with a bent wheel. Lucky for me, I didn't have to pay for the rental car. Most of you know he had a deep desire to meet people from different countries and cultures. Anytime we were on vacation or talked about going on vacation, he insisted that we must find out where the locals are to really get to know the area. It really didn't matter if you spoke the language. He had a hard time communicating in English already. I could only imagine what people thought of this large, loud, and shoeless American. I'm sure they were confused at first. Then they would be put at ease when they realized his interest was genuine. Sometime in the 1980s, he shipped a scooter to Europe and spent the good part of the summer aimlessly riding around small European towns and meeting new friends. He befriended a whole Icelandic community while living in Everett, Washington. He went to Iceland with them for Christmas. But one of my favorite memories of such encounters was in October of 2002 in New York City. My father had met up with me and Matt in New York for my birthday. We went to dinner with some cherished friends, Jeanette, who was living in New York at the time, and Thomas, who drove down from Boston. It also happened to be a Memorial Week for the first responders in the 9/11 attack that happened just 1 year earlier. One evening, we walked into our 5th bar for the night, and there was a visibly drunk New York police officer that my dad insisted on meeting. He asked him what that horrible day was like. Had he lost any friends? The officer began to tell my dad the story of his best friend and fellow officer, Officer O'Malley. I don't know his first name. Officer O'Malley lost his life on September 11th while rushing to help those in the Twin Towers. My father's genuine connection to that officer in the bar moved him to insist that the whole bar raise a glass and sing a song in O'Malley's honor. The whole bar eventually joined them singing through tears. Well, that was such an epic night. That was so fun. O'Malley. He was either deeply loved or intensely hated. He could be generous one minute and hard-headed and completely unreasonable in the next. But his death was a jolt. December 8th of 1980, John Lennon was shot and killed close to his apartment in New York City. John Lennon's death caused my father such distress that he took multiple days off of work, listening to old records and binging on ice cream. On July 4th, 1993, his brother Scott was shot while working at a convenience store. And this just left Scott blind. In the early morning of December 14th, 2012, while I was at work, my father called me in tears over the senseless act of violence that occurred that morning at Sandy Hook Elementary School. So it's odd to me that I would receive a call from my family notifying me of my father's death as a result of gun violence. These past 6 months, I've had to untangle the unintentional mess he left behind. I've come to realize that my father suffered all the same afflictions that plague most of us at one time or another. Frustration, failure, depression, loneliness, anger, desperation, and an inability to effectively communicate with people, even the ones we love. These afflictions contributed to him being misunderstood, having strained relationships and stress that manifested in bad decision-making. He attempted to mend relationships in his own way. Compartmentalized friendships was not always honest, especially with himself. He didn't know how to reach out. I've spent a lot of my time lately trying to figure out what I can do to change this. How do I understand? How do I explain to my children? And I haven't come up with any quick answer. In a recent review of articles written at the time of his big bicycle adventure, he was quoted, "A man that rides alone through life rides best." I think this quote brings me comfort in some odd way, at least a better understanding of who he was. I'm beginning to find peace with who he was and what that means to me. But I'm going to cycle my own path. It looks different, but will surely be influenced from his experience. I will be a commitment to having more compassion, listening more, and showing others kindness. And hopefully I will be able to see others from a different point of view rather than at face value. Perhaps that is a grace that my father didn't know how to give or didn't know could be received. I will also be a commitment to seeking adventure, being more spontaneous, and taking the time to dance more often. Those are the memories of my father I will cherish, so they must be the memories I make while I'm still here. Time to say goodbye. He finally got the beachfront property in Corona Del Mar. I'm so excited for him. We love you, Dad. Thank you.
I know he's in a good place now. So I hope he's get recognized. He's not been recognized by God. His good intention to save the world. Not very few people have that kind of dream. I did. So I admire him. He's my sunshine. My only sunshine. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take care of my sunshine away.